Hello, every folks, and good morning. Welcome to a sort of pre-review thing here for Xenonauts 2. Now, I call it a pre-review because this is essentially doing what I did with Triangle Strategy back in the day, where I'm throwing a review out there before the ending actually happens, because technically speaking, the ending isn't in the game yet. That's coming in Milestone 5, and it sounds like that's just around the corner. So I wanted to kind of put a pre-review out there, just showing my impression so far of like my first 100 hours of the released version, as well as how it's gone for the 1,000+ hours of the original version, and whatever else, like explaining what Xenonauts is, why you should care, why you should give it a go, because it can be very easy to take a look at it and be like, wait, hold on, if this is just XCOM, I can go buy the entire XCOM series for the price of Xeno 2. So okay, I hear you, I get it, right? Hell, in some cases you probably would get the entire series for less. But that being said, Xenonauts is a very interesting format, and for those that love these kinds of games, this is really something that you should be supporting. Now, let me explain what the premise is of this whole thing in the first place, because you basically are doing the classic XCOM thing. We'll get to that in just a moment. But effectively, what we're seeing is a lot of improvements to kind of the horror elements of the whole thing. Your focus is not necessarily on the spreadsheets like it was back in the originals. It's not on the campy action of the later versions. Instead, what we're focusing on is the direness of your situation, as you can tell from the opening screens of both the Xenonauts games. The whole premise is just everything is just completely fucked and you've got no way to stop it, and let's go ahead and try anyway. So yeah, that part's fun. And unlike, let's say, something like the UFO series, you're not really going after a sort of force of nature, so to speak. It is genuinely a sort of insidious background direct threat to everyone's existence, and they know it. There's no questions. They are definitely screwing you over, and they're making other people screw you over, and it's this kind of constant sabotage, espionage, things like that that really sells the setting, because you're essentially set in the Cold War. Now, here's the thing. The original was set directly in the Cold War. In this one, in Xeno 2, the Cold War has been artificially extended. Nobody knows why it's still going, but you are essentially just a small agency that's supposed to get to the bottom of it, and more or less the moment that you start getting into something, your base gets taken over and you're starting over from scratch. And that's kind of the where you're starting off at the very beginning here. That you've got a handful of soldiers, you've got a leftover base, presumably from the first game, and yeah, your first mission is basically to go seemingly capture yourself, I think, from the first one. So it basically retcons the first Xenonauts. But yeah, the premise of this game is that yeah, you are definitely a kind of small player as far as everything is concerned. You are definitely way out of your depth, and essentially, when it comes to the skills of your soldiers, you're definitely running no superhumans here. You want to see the crazy kinds of skills you've got? You've got Neil, and you've got Shoot Gun. Man, oh man, these guys are truly the A-team that we needed. So when it comes to Xeno 2, what it ends up pulling off as far as like comparisons with the first game, whereas the mission variety in the first one was fairly, I mean, more or less identical to the classic XCOM games, this time around what we see is actually something way more akin to something like XCOM 2, with a much wider variety of missions, like in this particular case right here, where our mission is essentially to extract those three guys over there. So we have the team that showed up in the dropship over in this direction. So they're just going to kind of go out and scout out what we're dealing with right now. And additionally, we just basically have to get those guys over to our ship. Now, the tone is, again, very, very different if you're used to XCOM. It's the closest would probably be something like Terror from the Deep, minus the extreme annoyance of playing that game on a day-to-day basis. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Terror from the Deep, but I think we can all agree it gets a little a little bit tedious to play sometimes. So anyways, so as far as the combat and everything is concerned, we're essentially seeing a deeper version of the classics here, with more of a cover system, a full 3D environment to kind of mess around with as you will, and additionally, instead of necessarily relying on dice rolls, most of the time you are focusing on the sort of practicalities of your situation here. Like, realistically, if we take a look at cover and stuff, it might block a shot, but realistically speaking, somebody, as long as they can see you, can probably still take a shot at you, which means that engagements are typically relatively accurate. So more often than not, you're trying to get in cover, like completely in cover, rather than necessarily looking for kind of stat advantages, as it were. 77% though, not going to say no to that. I probably should have. And so you wind up in situations like this, where you took a chance on a dice roll, and, well, now we're having a little bit of a rough time. So, we're going to go ahead and run out here real quick. We're going to pop some smoke, try to block this guy's line of sight. We just found another guy. While doing so, we're basically completely surrounded. So we'll just go ahead and block off that area over there. We'll probably go ahead and attempt to block this guy here. Actually, we can probably just shotgun this man right here. Seeing as its first mission, and one of the kind of quality of life features in the Xenonauts games is that when you first deploy, everybody has half of their turn units. So you do have a turn unit system in this game. It's fairly strict in terms of limiting your movement. So, like, in this particular case, I don't necessarily want to be going after that guy. Let's see if I have anybody left over with some smoke grenades or something. I think I'm probably best bet. No, that one already acted. Let's say we go over here. Okay, those guys are just kind of sitting put for the time being. I'm thinking maybe over here might be the safest bet for this guy, because I want him to do that flank against that agent over there, but it is what it is. So, okay, so as far as the setting of this goes, why does the Cold War matter in particular? It's because nobody trusts each other, meaning that when it comes to the actual coordination between funding nations and whatnot, they are constantly looking for reasons to just kind of bail on you at the earliest opportunity, and or exploit whatever you're up to. So, like in the first game, I don't know if this still applies in this one. Actually, it probably still applies, considering you still can't sell them at a profit. But there's a little bit of a joke-turned game mechanic in the form of the laser guns, where, like, as soon as you, let's say, invent lasers, the USSR shows up and like, well, we see that you were trying to sell the lasers, you can't do that, we've already sold them to everybody. they stole your technology and started making money off it, whereas you're trying to save the world, and then you run into random civilians that happen to have more advanced weaponry than you. Which is useful when they show up on missions, but like it is a very consistent game about giving you the middle finger, you know. So again, very kind of a fun setting there. Like not necessarily fun in terms of the you totally want to live here sense, more so fun in the like, hey, this is just kind of a neat idea for a game kind of sense, you know. Also, I want to both hurt this guy and hurt this wall, so I'm just going to go ahead and pop one of these here, and surprisingly, he just took that to the face like a champ. Good on you, buddy. Can we by any chance capture? No, we can't capture him. You know what? I think we'll just take a few little accurate shots. Have yourself a little bit of a knee here. Take a little bit of a shot on this one. A couple of quick pops. No such luck. Okay, Mr. Sniper. You need to redeem yourself. Actually, you need to take a quick step back here. There we go. That looks about good there. We'll have this guy take his 100% now. There we go. Looking okay. We might actually make it off this dropship after all. This is one of these ones that you're kind of expected to potentially run into some really bad scenarios that you might well expect to have repeated squad wipes as you just try to make any progress whatsoever. You might potentially lose half a team to make a tiny bit of progress. It is a very kind of a brutal scenario in that sense, to the point that oftentimes you'll find yourself taking interesting risks to make any progress whatsoever, and that's again part of the interesting vibe of this game. It's a very I don't want to say necessarily down to earth, but it definitely gives it that horror feel that I personally really enjoy. Okay. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the improvements that they made over the first game. So one of the core features that it has over something like XCOM there is what I mentioned earlier as far as the overall economy and everything goes, where you have no means of long-term sustenance. The only time that you ever can achieve a stalemate during the invasion is once you get the Blackbird, and at that point you basically just nuke planes out of the sky, or nuke UFOs out of the sky. I kid you not. So you're just having a infinitely flying nuclear kind of just spaceship, more or less. And that's the only way to actually stalemate the invasion. Until then, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, week by week. I technically phase by phase, and sorry if. Penny, what are you doing? Why are you trying to eat my microphone? Sorry, I'm once again kind of doing one of these videos in a different room, and so the cats are all over the place, doing the cat thing as you do, I suppose. Anyway, so we've seen a much larger variety of missions in this one, for one thing. We've got things like rescue missions, ambush missions, where you show up completely surrounding a convoy or something. You've got different types of kind of pseudo-terror missions of sorts. Where you're basically trying to quickly rescue a bunch of units, or potentially we've got cases like you've got different variations on the UFO crashes. You've got stuff like the cleaner black sites. So the cleaners are these guys. So they're basically like I don't know how much of this would be spoilers. So they're basically like you. For all intents and purposes, that they're another organization that's sort of doing the same stuff that you are, but yeah, they got compromised, and we'll leave it at that. There's some of the cheesy stuff that you could do in the original that got taken out, that was or fixed, I guess you could say. That I personally found kind of funny. Like one of the things that I used to cheese the hell out of the first game was a weird thing in which the AI didn't understand how to path through a door if you were standing behind it. So they fixed that part. So can no longer completely stun lock the AI by standing in front of the door. But yeah, as far as mechanics are concerned, you've got more weapon types that are available. You've got better information across the board. So, for example, you'll notice that we no longer have line of sight of this guy, but that doesn't matter. He will remain there until the end of our turn, meaning that you don't, for example, look away for a second, forget that someone was there, and end up losing a campaign for it. So that's also good right there. Additionally, we've got a completely different system as far as your primary and secondary weapons are concerned. So in the original, you basically were operating with kind of both your hands, as it were. So let's say you picked up a primary weapon, it took both your hands, or if you used a pistol, it only took one hand. And that was all well and good, but it did mean that there was a lot of additional menuing. And so this time around, we have things like your tools and explosives and whatever else that are basically going to be showing up all over your bar. In fact, I kind of find it funny that this thing basically did the Tactics Ogre toolbar years before Tactics Ogre Reborn came out. So that's just kind of neat. Additionally, when it comes to cover, the indicators are a bit more useful this time around, giving you a decent bit more information. And additionally, you can pick and choose what kind of weapons you would like to be overwatching with. So, for example, if you wanted to make sure that this guy only took a shot with his pistol, like right here, I want him to at least attempt to take a shot at this guy if he decides to rush us, you can have that as an available tool for you. I think these guys I'm just going to go ahead and leave here on the off chance that they decide to... Actually, that is quite a decently long distance. You know what? We're going to go ahead and have them kind of shimmy along this wall here. Attempt to kind of sneak their way out across the map. As far as vehicles go, the original Hunter vehicle got replaced by the Mars platform, so it's basically the Shiv from XCOM Enemy Unknown, but it functions for all intents and purposes just like the original Hunter vehicle did, up to and including the point that if you start losing them repeatedly, you're probably going to screw over your campaign. So yeah, fairly cheap on your first month, and then it increasingly hurts as you progress along, as you realize just how much that quarter mil is actually costing you. Let's see. As far as your different attack types, it's more or less the same as before, but with everything being fully 3D now, it is modeled out better. This means that a lot of the logic behind the shots that you take will make more sense. Like you previously, I had those moments where it's like, oh, it managed to miss the locker, and managed to miss the shelf in front of it, managed to miss the crate of boxes in front of it, but it hit the cardboard box that's like a third of its height in front. Like, how exactly did that shot curving work, you know? So that was one of those weird quirks of that original version, and this time around that was improved. Additionally, the bleeding system has been improved, where units will not just simply bleed forever, and additionally will it'll give you indicators when somebody is injured and bleeding and whatever else, as up to and including showing you kind of what you're potentially losing. It just allows you to plan these things out better. And so also there's as far as burst shots are concerned, I feel like the burst shots are less likely to get free accidental hits. Now, this can be a good or bad thing depending on how you like to play. I personally really liked the approach of just spraying and praying an entire area, but it does seem like the shots drop off a decent bit more this time around. So you typically are forced to do a little bit less caveman plays, as it were. That being said, though, if you want to, let's say, like, let's pretend this is a UFO right here, right? And you have your three HMG guys over here. There's nothing stopping you from just going and spraying and praying that entire area. You'll still take armor off of units. But yeah, just so you're aware, if that was your original go-to of the HMGs and sniper rifles, it is a little less effective this time around. At least in the HMG front, the sniper rifles are still freaking amazing. You also have new grenade types. So they actually had a couple of grenade types that never made it to the original. We don't, for example, see the incendiary grenade being a thing, but we do see actually there might be incendiary grenades. I actually don't know. Admittedly, I have not fully completed a campaign of this just yet, so I don't know exactly what tools are out there. But things like the detonation packs are one of the new tools that you have, and they are very, very useful. They're basically a sort of small kind of I don't know what you'd call this. It's just a small little satchel charge that will do something like this. That it basically demolishes a small area. It's very similar to, if you've played XCOM Enemy Unknown, the demolition ability on the mech units. That's basically what it is in pocket form. So either way, very useful tool there. Additionally, we'll just go ahead and set up a little bit of a shooting line right here while everybody else gets to the ship, and then we should be all good here. Okay, so as far as enemies are concerned, you see a way bigger variety of enemies this time around. Before you had Cesians, Androns, and Civilians, and then they showed up with whatever their drone and tank variants were, and then you had the what the hell were the other guys called? The floaty guys that are totally not ethereals, but they're totally ethereals. Why am I forgetting what the hell they're called? The weird DBZ looking guys. So those are, as far as I'm aware, still out there somewhere. This is basically the same alien invasion coming back for a way later introduction. But yeah, but you've got a lot more varieties this time around. So like you've got engineer and regular variants of the Cesians, as well as the Scion variants, which are way scarier this time around, because they basically do the horror movie thing of turning around and staring at somebody, and all of a sudden they're unable to shoot anymore. Their hand just freezes, so they get mesmerized, and if you don't deal with them, then they end up mind controlling that guy next round. So basically, they're just the pocket shining, I guess. Additionally, there's commands brought back from the original UFO defense, as well as Terror from the Deep, allowing you to conserve points for different things. I think this might have technically been in the first Xenonauts. I just never used it, so I never noticed it. And the only reason I did use it is actually because of the weird way that I'm playing. So you'll notice that my mouse is moving weird. Why is your mouse moving so weird? Have you gotten brain damage or something? And while that's probably not necessarily an unrealistic assumption, essentially what I'm doing is playing it handheld. So I've actually been going through this thing on Steam Deck because I've been having a weird issue with my left hand hurting. It happens every now and then, and I typically just resolve that issue by taking whatever game I'm playing and mapping it exclusively to one side of a Steam Deck. And it's been a very, very cozy experience playing it that way. Like this entire time I've been going and playing it one-handed on the Steam Deck, and it's cozy as hell, man. So overall, I will say that it's gotten smooth enough over the updates to the point that it's fully playable this way, if for some reason that happens to be your thing. We also have additional quality of life features, like if you don't like hearing those little warnings telling you that you haven't used up all your turn units, you have a right-click command on the end turn button to just skip your entire turn now. Additionally, smoke grenades from the first one no longer take like 3 or 4 of them to fully get a black smoke cloud going. And also, the actual functions of those grenades are a bit different as well. One of the things that we saw one of the things that we actually saw in the first one was that for example, you would use flashbangs as a bit of a stun option. So, like, let's say you walked into an area and there was just an absolute ton of units, right? Um, but a lot of them are clustered up, and so let's say you needed to do an alien capture, and it's early in the game, you haven't unlocked your stun gas launchers yet, and so what you're doing is you're attempting to go and stun all of these packed up aliens using a bunch of flashbangs, and it resulted in this comical situation where, like, let's say this is a UFO, right? And so somebody would let's say just like open up the door, throw in a flashbang. Next person runs in, throws in a flashbang, and they've got like 50 health. Each one of these is doing maybe 7 stun damage every time that it's being thrown in, and so it just leads to this comical cascade as you go and flashbang this dude like 20 times, but hey, you just went and progressed the plot a decent bit. So this time around, that job is actually somewhat reverted back to its old UFO defense days. Namely, that we see the return of the smoke inhalation mechanic. So what we're seeing here, wow, that was a very near miss. So what we're seeing here is that, for example, let's say you walk into an area, a flashbang, instead of rolling for stun damage, because in the original it would roll for stun damage, and if it did enough, it would be able to to fully inflict that stun there. This time around, if you let's say throw in a bunch of smoke there, the smoke would do stun damage like the flashbang used to, but I'm explaining this very poorly. I apologize. I just got very distracted by trying to snipe this guy. But the flashbang will always suppress. So the suppression mechanic as well as the shield mechanics are back from the first game, and they're just as important as they ever were, arguably even more important, due to the increased bulk across the board for everybody. So that is going to be another important factor that we're going to be going over here in just a sec. But you'll see, like, this lady's shield still has a decent bit of juice to it, so we're going to try to use her to hold off these guys a little bit while our sniper gets in place. Hopefully he can run this. It can't quite run this, but he can at least get somewhat close. Maybe he'll be able to take a shot next round. And so, it just like the original, though, there's a lot of just kind of scouting around, setting up traps, trying to keep your eyes open at all times. And to that end, I will say I think that they improved a lot of things here, like in terms of the kind of viewing angles on your units. Their peripheral vision is a lot better, so you don't have those situations where the AI chose to take that one Reaper and march it towards that one line of grayed out tiles that you forgot to check that turn. So it's generally a lot less annoying in those particular regards. Um, we've got new functions added to older things, like, for example, instead of going for various different types of rocket launcher and your original rocket launcher being surprisingly flimsy, we have the grenade launcher with its different ammo types that's taking in that same role, which allows for more of a kind of firing arc kind of weapon. In fact, the overall usage of the grenade launcher has given me very similar vibes to the archer from Tactics Ogre, where you're oftentimes just kind of parking them in the back and using them to lob stuff at a distance, so that feels very good. Let's see if we can get a snipe off on this guy. I'm thinking probably around here. Might be decent. See, we need to have 31 after the turn here. There's actually additional start options as well. So if you wanted to have different difficulty options in terms of how much money you're starting with, your kind of funding regions and whatever else, as well as the way that certain mechanics work. So, like, for example, if you didn't like that turn units were required for turning, if you wanted to be more like new XCOM, you could do that. If you wanted to change the turn unit requirements for inventory management or whatever else. So, like, this is a very classic rule set that I'm running by right now, but you can make a lot of this stuff a bit more quote-unquote modern if you want. So just kind of know that that is potentially a thing. Here, let's see. Do we have anyone? There's probably no chance that they're going to be able to take that shot. This guy might be able to take one tile this way and take a little bit of a blink. Yeah, 82%, man, this guy needs to survive. That is some excellent aim this dude's rocking. Okay, we'll leave you kind of watching over this area. But yeah, the tension of this game is fantastic. Like, and actually, that's one of those other things I want to point out. So one of the things that mod I was talking about earlier added that this one actually managed to bring to the table as well is an improved armor system. So this is technically somewhat similar to the same armor system that classic XCOM used and that the original Xenonauts used, but the way that it's used is far improved in my opinion. So basically what's going on here is that the armor system, which you'll notice right over here, every unit type will have a certain amount of armor. When they take a hit of any variety, that armor will go down. And additionally, if it penetrates their armor, it goes into their health value. So every time that, let's say you're shooting a rapid-fire weapon, even the toughest thing can eventually get shredded. So, like, let's say you have one of your little mini tank guys out on the field, they'll gladly be able to take a good bit of damage for you, but this doesn't mean that, an SMG won't eventually tear them apart. So this again leads to a good bit of tension there when you know that nobody's really tanking things in the long term. So so yeah, everyone's armor is constantly getting shredded, but because of the improved armor values across the board this time around, this means that we also get to see things like we did in X Division, wherein we've got, let's say, units that are going to be able to take a hit or two before they go down instead of dying immediately, like in Xenonauts. Like more often than not in Xeno 1, just any random stray shot would see somebody get completely annihilated. So this time around, and this, by the way, did include even with the Jackal armor, which was your first armor upgrade. Like, that stuff maybe gave you a 5% chance of survival at the cost of more resources than you could probably spare at the time. This time around, though, with your Warden armor, with your basic armor, it does feel like your units are reasonably tanky. Like, not tanky, I guess. It's probably not the right term. Also, for some reason, the pistol, it always shows 20% accuracy. Okay, it always shows somewhere in the ballpark of like 20-30% accuracy. I have found it a more reliable, just like instant win button than most of the other weapons, and I don't know why. Anyway, so yeah, as far as the armor is concerned, there's a lot more kind of protracted gunfights and stuff like that, because units can generally take a decent bit more punishment, meaning that you want to surround and beat stuff down in order to shred it apart. That's one of those things that was really great about X Division that they brought in here. Additionally, your kind of science and engineering teams have more stuff to do, especially on the engineering front, where the more kind of leftovers that you get for various types of units, they can develop additional countermeasures against them, so you get kind of improved damage versus them and stuff like that. And yeah, in general, it feels a lot more active. You've got a lot more facilities, and one of those things that I really like about the air game is that they brought back the air game from the original, but again, we see some X Division influence there, where, for example, there's much more of an ongoing actual fight element to the fights themselves. We've got units deploying drones, or we've got spaceships deploying drones right off the get-go. And additionally, we have a type of jet that is actually continuously functional throughout the game. In fact, this jet reminds me of... Oh God, what the hell was it called? There was the kind of forward wing swept thing that XDiv had, and/or I think it was called the Marauder in the original Xenonauts. That's more or less what this plane reminds me of. That you basically have a plane that does everything right from the get-go. But you can pick and choose what you're running on it. So additional fuel pods for extended range, extra plating to allow it to take extra hits, different types of guns and weapons and things. So like it takes you, instead of developing new planes right at the very start and let's say having to pay the U.S. to use their F-16s, instead this time around you have your own custom jet in terms of the Angel, but instead you have to develop new weapons for it, where the thing is going to basically be a combination of the F-16 and the Foxtrot from the first game. It'll be able to do both of those jobs, but depending on the loadout and depending on how you fly the thing, you've got different characteristics coming out of it, which feels really good. It gives it a bit more of an Armored Core type of feeling, which I really appreciate. Additionally, the auto-resolve, so I think this was a community feature that was requested. So like before, if you would auto-resolve and the AI just got freakishly lucky, like you just had some random probe that came along and just annihilated destroyed 3 of your jets somehow, and like there's no logical way that that would have happened. They could have flown straight at it and won. How did the dice roll to create that kind of situation back in the original? You always do have the option to just ignore whatever the auto resolve did and just do it manually instead. So I really appreciate that feature. And they do mention right here that technically they're still working on this, so expect that there's going to be some, some stuff that's different about it every now and then. But also, you this time around you can actually start with your own with your own angle, however you'd like them to be starting off. Also, how are you already injured? What are you injured from? That's weird. I don't know what it was injured from. So we've got things like the afterburners that allow it to basically turn into foxtrot mode. You've got your old evasive rolls from the F-16, and additionally, like I said earlier, we've got new options in the form of here. I'm do a little bit of a dodge roll here. We've got additional options that ended up showing up in the form of new weapon types that are around, so especially the drones. I really appreciate the drones. It reminds me of the aerial mine bombardments from X Division. They added, like, they went absolutely nutty with a lot of the mechanics in that mod. So yeah, it's just great to see. All right, here. I forgot to actually assign a button to do some of the commands. That's why I'm playing it a little bit weird here. I'll take a little bit of a left roll to continue going through this guy's hull. That should be just enough. There we go. I love the air game system in this. It's essentially a strategy shmup, and again, once you're at the point of going and actively dodging, things like drones and missiles and stuff like that, it just feels really good. Okay. So we've got 21 hours left for them to recover these alloys. Surprisingly, that one drone will be enough to make one set of armor, which will be useful later. Additionally, you're actually generating money using science. So depending on the... I think that's how this works. So depending on the type of science that you're doing, if it's providing a benefit to the world, it seems like you get a sort of per hour income off of doing that, because the funding nations will go and kind of support your efforts there. And that's actually the other interesting thing, that this time around, you might have noticed we fought very few actual aliens there. We were just fighting people. So the alien invasion has not officially started at the time of everything that's going on here. It's happening, it's building up in the background, but you actually have to go through a little bit of an extra layer at the start here by dealing with the cleaners. So let's see, in this case we can develop... I never actually finished that train of thought earlier. I apologize. So I was talking about the air game weapons. So for example, at the very start, you only have machine guns available on your jets. Like the actual chassis of the thing remains good, but the actual weapons that it needs are the thing that needs improvement, because they don't have any weapons that can actually track the UFOs. Like, the UFOs are happening, they're sending probes, they're sending scouts, they're doing the occasional abduction, but for the most part, the main face of the invasion this early on is people. That it's people that have been manipulated or mind controlled into joining them, which is, again, just kind of a cool angle here. Because, it kind of disturbingly mimics a lot of the weird real world stuff going on right now, which is not great to see, but, it is what it is, I suppose. Anyway, wait, did we actually put new research in, or did I forget to do that? Yeah, I put xenobiology on there. Good, good, good. Oh yeah, new facilities. So as far as facilities are concerned, we've got some new stuff that was added. Training centers that allow for building your people up passively. Just kind of allows you to go train everybody up, as it were. Let's see. As far as radars go, it's the same old stacking radar system from before. But additionally, you actually start with only one jet and one dropship this time around, giving you a bigger incentive to actually build one of those. And additionally, there's a much bigger emphasis, as far as I can tell anyway, to stick to about 2 bases in the early game. You don't necessarily have to build them all over the frickin' place, just enough to reasonably cover what's around you. Whoops, accidentally exited out of the thing there, my bad. Okay. One quick thing here. Somehow messed up my controls there, so we're just going to go ahead and accept result there and go back to what we were doing over in this direction. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about a few other mechanics here. So one of the cool, kind of cool things that happened over the course of development here is seeing the sort of modularity system coming more into the forefront here. So kind of back in the original there, there were some additional tools that you could use, but mostly it was like different kind of weapons, different kinds of grenades, armors, that kind of thing. Um, but um, but this time around, there was a bigger focus on a sort of modular system. I think this takes place in 2009. This feels like it was trying to sort of ape the mentality that was going on with specifically the U.S. military, kind of around that time with the whole everything's got to be modular thing. um, Now, I'm not really much of a gun nut guy myself, but I have heard plenty as far as the all that kind of stuff being around. Now, so this means, like, for example, with your different pieces of armor and equipment or something, you're going to have different variants available for your different armor types. You're going to have different attachable modules. So, like at this point, right now we have one that's basically the scope from XCOM, but something available right from the get-go. Okay, that was weird. Sorry, throat decided to do some weird stuff there. But for example, installing targeting modules or installing rebreathers to give your people the ability to, let's say, run through smoke without taking stun damage, or to have slightly better accuracy, that kind of stuff. And additionally, that the heavy or light armor will effectively allow them to exchange weight for additional armor rating for whatever that does for you. So yeah, it's good stuff there. Additionally, my Shiv slash Mars is not quite done yet. Looks like it'll be here in 15 hours. So we'll go ahead and let that pass real quick because I want to show off that thing. It's pretty darn nifty. Oh, that line is back. Okay, so this guy has a different line every time you walk in. I thought they got rid of the whole Da Comrade thing after, a couple of years ago, but I guess technically that applies to other places too, so it's fine. But this is what I was talking about earlier as far as using your engineering team to analyze stuff that you've killed and whatnot. So you can have them analyze dead bodies to better improve your targeting against them and stuff like that. This is seemingly a sort of simplified version of one of the things that X Division did, which I know there's going to be a lot of, hey, look, X Division did it. It's a very extensive overhaul mod. It might be a bit overwhelming for most. But there are a lot of there's a good use of taking stuff that people liked there and bringing it in here. And so it was just really good to see that kind of stuff was happening. In terms of the usual argument that comes at this point of like, oh, that's just developers appropriating other people's work. Dude, this is the people that made that mod also were the ones that made the community edition for the first Xenonauts. Like, it's been a shared thing for a long time. Don't worry about it. I'm pretty sure everyone's on at least okay terms. It's sometimes hard to tell because anytime I went into the forums, there tended to be this thing of like, some people insisting that the game needed to be out already because it's been a bit of a long development period. Others that were willing to wait forever. You had some folks that demanded a new feature every 2 days. Like I remember somebody wrote something like a 7-page long thesis over why we need war dogs. Like just every day they're like, here's what some army in some place did with XYZ random thing. We need this feature in the game right now. So there was this kind of interesting back and forth between what can feasibly be fun in the game and what the sim nuts want in there, and it's just fun. Kind of fun because they would seemingly get into arguments over stuff while just immediately forgetting by the next week. It's amusing. Anyway, so with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at this real quick. I meant to make another angel here, but I can't quite afford it yet. So let's talk about this robot, because I freaking love this robot. So the Mars platform is here. Let's go put this sucker in here. Obviously, we got to give this thing the right name. I kind of think of it. How would I even enter it in this case? Nope. Right, I need to be in game mode to access the on-screen keyboard, or I need to be in the other mode here. In order to access it with X, in which, screw it. I'm just going to rename this later. I always rename my first one the Sky Dancer. But you've got different armor options as you go along. Even out of the box, you have cannons, you've got missiles, you've got targeting modules, machine guns, smoke launchers. It's like if, for example, you wanted to pin a unit down and just wanted to bombard it with smoke until somebody else could arrive, you've got that. You've got auto rifles for getting overwatch shots. You've got targeting modules for improving stuff with your missiles. You've still got your burst fire function on your missiles. So like this thing would, functionally speaking, just be an artillery piece at this point. And additionally, you can give it reinforced armor here to make it to the point that it basically has a 50-50 shot of just not taking damage whenever it's hit. And in this case, would just be useful for, like, let's say there's a doorway that's blocking you. You don't want to risk somebody opening up that door. It would be too cost intensive to blow it away with a machine gun or something. And so you can be like, hold on, I'm just going to send in the drone, have it run over the door, and then have the sniper back them up, you know? So that kind of stuff is just really, really cool. So yeah, there's a lot more of those kinds of tactics this time around, and due to the fact that it's a one-tile item instead of the hunter being 9, this means that you can use it indoors. So you can use it for things like, let's say there's a bunch of barricades blocking the way inside of a UFO, you can quickly have it drive around, flatten those, and then follow it up with something else. Alright, so it looks like there's a raid happening. So in this particular case, the cleaners have established a command post that they're going to expand their operations in the area. Destroying it will disrupt their activities and allow us to capture valuable data. So at the very start of the game here, you're trying to work your progress towards finding the cleaner base. So in this case, we see that it's gonna last there for 3 days. We've got can get 5% closer to their location, or if we lose, we get a 20% higher panic in North America. Seems like if the option was there to just do nothing, it would be cool. But anyway, I'll go ahead and launch this, and when you go to launch, it goes immediately to your screen here, allowing you to switch between your different options. You'll notice that our first research, though, was not towards the obvious thing in most of these games of going for magnetic weapons. Why are we not immediately going for magnetic weapons? So, the thing is, those different weapon types are not necessarily always just an upgrade. So, like, the magnetic weapons are more accurate, and they will still use our standard ballistic ammo here, meaning that they're interchangeable if, let's say, somebody goes down and they need more ammo. But they will take alloys to build, which we can also use towards armor, and our basic ballistic weapons, as I mentioned earlier, are still going to do the job just fine as far as shredding stuff apart. So we don't necessarily always need to be looking for just the next big numbers upgrade. We can always go for other tools instead, and early on, the combination of just grenades and rifles will usually be enough to get most things done. Let's see, in this guy's case, I kind of feel like he needs to be maybe a sniper instead, because I don't see... No, we already have a sniper. He's going to be our heavy, I think, because I don't see a heavy on this team. I say before finding the heavy on the team, but no, I don't see the heavy on the team, so he will be that heavy. Also, funnily enough, the standard heavy does not come with heavy armor. I'm not sure why. Just like the first one, there's a lot of kind of questions up in the air with the standard loadouts. Like with the heavy, he primarily will use his pistol as a bit of a follow-up action in case it's at close range and something survived 10 shots from the HMG. All well and good. I have never found a reason for him to carry this extra magazine over here. Smoke grenades, yes. Extra magazine, no. Detonation packs, no. Just shoot it with your HMG. What are you doing? More smoke grenades, yes. So we'll go ahead and put that there. Shield person is going to be good with their shield. In this case, it's going to be justified because that is their primary weapon here. This is going to be a raid, so additional stuff... Okay, we won't really have a ton of time here. So this guy probably wants to actually swap out for an assault. So I'll go ahead and swap out for one of these here real quick. And just like the first one, you can always just go and make your own if you'd prefer. Right now I'm finding it easier just to modify the standard ones. But if, for example, you wanted to do some goofy stuff with it, you absolutely can. And in this case, since we are going and fighting cleaners, I'm thinking... and since it's not a very long one, I'm just going to go run rockets on this thing. Usually I prefer the cannon, because you can have this thing just like go and drive directly up to something and hit it in the face with a cannon. Also, you're seeing one of the downsides of excitedly tapping on the button here, because it's causing me to mess stuff up. Maybe I will just go cannon here, actually. Nah, okay, it's fine, it's fine. Leave it as is, and that'll be good enough there. So personally, like, I always prefer running kind of shotgun snipers and stun batons, but, you know, to each their own. It's definitely a lot... Oh, grenades! I never even mentioned the changes to grenades. So there isn't a timer on your standard grenades anymore. They'll just go off immediately. Again, you know, cue the Simpsons quote of X Division did it. But this means that you will know for sure if something died to that grenade that you threw. But, again, we have the guarantee of stuff like the flashbangs, so we don't have to worry about getting upgraded flashbangs as the game goes on. Also, they don't have to also serve a secondary function as your electronic grenade, so presumably those will be different. As far as the enemy types, though, so we've got additional variants of all of them. So like, so far the Cesians this time around don't even exist. They are what the hell are they? They're sectons at this point. So sectons, scions, and I think like a secton variant. Which all the bigger ones with the bigger heads will mesmerize people if you fail to kill them on the first shot, and then the smaller ones are just kind of little engineer guys. You've got little doctor drones that fly around with the wraiths. Those are back. The wraiths now have camouflage predator armor basically. The civilians are back with all their previous variants and are just as ridiculously tanky as before. You've got the androns back doing their usual giant walking trash can Terminator maneuver. You've got different types of tanks and drones and all these other things that are popping out all over the place. Like, it's good to see that, unlike the first one, it hasn't gotten that stale point. Like, one of the things that was kind of an issue with the first one was the Corvette phase. So as soon as you got to the Corvette phase, typically there were like 2 months where you were just dealing with nothing but Corvettes, one of the three main enemy types, until the Wraiths showed up. And maybe you would occasionally see some variation when it came to the different mission types or what have you. Occasionally you'd see a Terror mission or what have you, but again, it felt like it was kind of lacking there. Okay. So at this point, we'll go ahead and demonstrate one of the cool features here. So we see that we're doing this. We've got a burst fire option over here. And as always, this is all going to be a very physical system. So for example, if we wanted to blow a gigantic hole through this building, first missile goes there, second one goes there. We've got some return fire, and that's very adorable. But now we have a nice big open entryway, and we can have somebody else go in there. So let's see who we have up front. So we've got one of our shotgunners here. They're going to go ahead and charge over this way. We see a whole lot of units, and primarily our job here is to get access to their computer desks and leave. So we're just going to kind of take whatever we can and get the hell out. So let's go ahead and just use a bunch of explosives to breach our way into there. Let's see, is this one activatable? No. So we're looking for activatable computers, which are all going to be kind of scattered about. There's one over there, two over there. So that's going to be one direction for us to go through. Not going to bother kneeling, because we're just kind of going for the overwhelming firepower approach here. Let's kind of annihilate everything. That doesn't really help us much, but it does look cool. We can have our Mars going forward. The little SMGs that they're using by this point are not going to do very much, whereas the window over here, along with this barricade, is going to do a pretty good job of protecting our shield soldier over here. Go ahead and kind of go for one pistol shot, just for good measure. That one's armored, though. So we'll go ahead and have our sniper perch up, probably over here in this garden. Probably be a decent enough spot for them. Did I remember to bring a grenade launcher guy? No, that's... I can't believe I forgot to bring a grenade launcher. Okay, well, next time then. Yeah, the grenade launchers are really good. I really like them this time around. Don't get hit. I forget jumping the wall. You're going to be fighting the guy from right there. We need our HMG guy over here, as I'd like him to have a little bit of cover from this side. Hopefully that cover gets blown away, gives him a bit more of an open shot later. And then we'll have another one of our shotgunnies go up here. I just kind of want them getting in there as soon as possible, because the sooner that you can get stuff done, the better. Because you'll notice that it mentions over here that reinforcements will arrive in 6 turns. That seems like it's going to be ages from now, and it certainly does not feel that way. So when it comes to anything with a timer, I will say... this is a mechanic that we technically saw in something like XCOM 2 as far as the reinforcements are concerned, but oh my goodness, do they take it very seriously here. There is no lead-up timer, there is no anything. They're just like, okay, screw it, like a dozen extra units per round, what the hell are you gonna do? They just start showing up with a friggin' army. So yeah, it starts filling up pretty darn quick. And additionally, it's worth noting that when it comes to the later portions of the game, some of the stuff that they've mentioned that they're adding sounds very similar to XCOM 2, especially when it comes to things like the covert operations, where later on there was a complaint from some folks that there was not enough mission variety as the game went on after you took out the cleaners, which is understandable. The cleaners have a lot of the mission variety that we see, but one of the cool things that it sounds like they're working on here. Can we just order you to take that shot anyway? Great. Um, so anyway, sorry. So as far as the mission variety goes, it sounds like they're bringing back different variants of those missions, using a sort of kind of spy system of sorts, where you can potentially call in favors from friendly nations and whatnot. So that sounds like a pretty neat mechanic. Let's see. You took a little bit of damage. Are you bleeding? No. Yeah, they're not gonna have enough time to do that. We'll just kind of go over this way. All right, so that door is a little bit of a liability at the moment. Those guys are a little bit of a problem at the moment. Let's see. We've got a lot of dudes over there. Probably would have been a better place to put that missile, to be fair. Let's see. Probably just spam fire grenades. What? Hold on. Wait. What are you doing? Okay, that was a misclick on my part. Like I said, one of the small downsides of using a trackpad for this is that occasionally you will misclick. This is fine. All right. Yeah, overall, it's definitely way more pleasant than I would have expected, and surprisingly, and this is a weird comparison to make. Surprisingly, it's easier to play this in this particular format than it is to let's say play Chimera Squad of all things. Yeah, odd, but sure, why not? Okay, what about our sniper? Can you potentially reach around that bus? No. What about from here? No. What about from here? Yes. Excellent. Okay. And then that clears up our heavy gunner to probably move about here. Because again, there's going to be a thing in the way. They're just going to be ordered to shoot straight through that thing. So that should solve us a little bit of solve things a little bit for later. Let's see. We'll have you go here. Attempt to shotgun the next thing that comes through that door. We've got another shotgunner over here. They're going to attempt to go this way. Any desktops over here? There's one right there. I'm thinking we probably just kind of grab 3 of them. Actually, it looks like we got 4... No, it looks like there's 2 over here. There's 2 over wherever here was. So probably grab these 2, and then just leave. Just to try and play it safe here. Because that's actually the next thing that I didn't mention that was different from the first one. That you don't necessarily always have to completely complete every mission. That you can simply do these kind of partial completions and then just leave. So this is, again, something that we saw more in something like XCOM 2. Because in the first game, you would potentially be able to, let's say, take some of the stuff that you killed and run away with it. The problem was, it had bugs. It was very much a Kickstarter project, which, granted, this one is also a Kickstarter project, but it had more Kickstarter energy for that one, where there was just a bunch of weird bugs. So, like, one of the classic things I remember, one of my first campaigns for the first Xenonauts, there was I think it was like a Wraith leader or something like that. One of the kind of higher value type of units. And so I went and captured this guy, knocked him out, and the fight was just like a complete wash. Like there was just no two ways about it. It was just a complete mess. Okay, crap. Well, that's not great. Well, there's our first loss of this campaign, unfortunately. It's fine. We'll have to go pick those up. Anyway, yeah, let's go ahead and bring our next shotgunner in here. Yeah, usually they won't get those immediate kills, but occasionally they get one. Okay, so I'm thinking we take you, move you over here, nice and safely at a range, because you need to be going and collecting this computer stuff right here. So you're going to go right here, but for the time being, I would like one of these nice happy missiles to do a nice happy missile. So these computers are not very useful to us. However, okay, thank you, trackpad. Again, not an ideal way to do it, but it works, kind of. Man, it's funny how I have had so many more misclicks today while doing this than any other time. Okay, okay, so I completely lost track of what I was talking about before. This is fine. Again, I think we can safely establish my brain is mush. So as far as Xeno 2 is concerned, I really like how this is coming along. It definitely feels way better than the first one did out of the box. I was a little bit kind of up in the air a few months back when we were missing a lot of features. Right now, it feels like a lot more of that stuff is fully in play. A lot of this more active mission structure feels like the game's more built, properly around it. So it feels like it's getting, it feels better, is what I'm trying to get at. So that feels great there. Let's see. You make that shot by chance? No. I'm still kind of in that phase of trying to figure out what exactly is still a feature and what isn't. So, like, targeting this wall in order to be able to, let's say, hit the guy behind it. I don't know if that's a feature. It might be. But, I suppose we'll find out next round. I'm just going to have him post up behind his buddy here, and then we're probably good for that turn. Because, yeah, after finding out that doors can no longer be cheesed, I don't know what else is potentially a thing. Like, oh, that's a problem. Alright, so we're gonna... Good job. There we go. Like I said, those pistols are weirdly reliable. There we go. Good job, rifleman. You wanna use that shotgun with your reflex modifier, or no? So, weapons have a certain modifier to help them do their job better. So, like in the case of shotguns, they give you a reflex modifier, so they make you more likely to take your reaction shots and stuff, and also make you more resistant to enemy reaction fire. Weirdly enough, in this case, the guy just decided that he does not know how to reflex. Anyway, he did get knocked out though, so that's something. But I'm thinking what we do is we just have him go and tap both of these guys, and that should be job done there. This might be a terrible idea. Maybe it makes more sense to use the rocket launcher, but I'm gonna hope not. So if this lands, which it kind of did, Alright, what's our snipey man? What have you got for me? If he can get this guy, then we take that second shot. He cannot, so we're going to go ahead and back up. Unfortunately, yeah, reinforcements 3 turns. 9 is going to be enough to take a step back, but it isn't going to be a safe one. So you go right here. And he found yet another guy. Okay, yeah, so this is going great. Let's just have you circle around this corner. Yeah, this place is very dense, as you can tell. Alright. So, first order of business. Blow away dude, if you could. Let's say pop that sucker right there. Excellent. And those are still as satisfying as they always were. Next, you go ahead and... Where's the doohickey? There was a doohickey here somewhere. Did I blow up the doohickey? Or was it here? Okay, it's apparently in here. Alright, so you turn this way. Let's have you march over in this direction. Take that. So this guy's down over there. We'll have to pick him up if we can. That's no-go, that's no-go. Yeah, sniper guy's not in a very good sniping position, it would seem. Alright, let's see, we got this man over here. He's actually going to go over here and assist, I think. Just hopefully be a bit more useful next round. And then finally, HMG guy... I kind of want to just move him back to the dropship, to be honest, because we're going to need a way out pretty soon here. So it's probably worth moving both these guys closer to the dropship, even though they came out here and did very little. But that's how these things go sometimes. Like, we're basically got what we needed to, so we're going to grab a couple things. Even though it says that guy died, by the way, there is still a 10% chance that he survives. You do have facilities this time around that allow you to improve those odds as well. Okay, thank you for missing. Yeah, in general, I would say stuff on that side is not going terribly well. Alright. And bear in mind that they have not even gotten reinforcements yet, so that's coming pretty soon here. Boo. Okay. Well, we get our big ol' artillery piece just kind of over here to be cover, I suppose. Just park you right there. We've got 3 dudes down. Very little in the way of stuff that we can do to recover them so far. But I think I have an idea. Starts off with taking a very risky shot there. Then we're going to have you post up by this car. This is going to be the gun car. You're going to go right there. There we go. Alright. So they're going to continue just kind of shooting from there. We're going to take our way more valuable guy that I really shouldn't be risking. I'm going to throw out some smoke here, and we're going to have him run this. So his job is to get up there and to try to get people out. Actually, both these guys are going to go. So they've got some smoke up. They're going to try to get everybody out. They may be able to. They may not be able to. We'll see how it goes. And in the meantime, this one's going to go over here and attempt to collect more goodies. So you go there. Alright, you got that one. Hard to tell if that's one of them. But let's see. It's in 2 turns. They're already partially injured. I'm just going to go ahead and get them out of here. So I think it's 5 extra progress per stick that you bring back. So she's holding 15% progress towards our next thing in her pants right now. Alright. Go ahead and end turn there, and hopefully they fire on the Mars platform, because with their little SMGs and stuff, it's enough to be a threat versus my guy's armor and stuff, but versus that thing, not so much. Alright. Yeah, like, that's barely a scratch. It'll be fine. And then from there, we can use that to bait out attacks. So, like, let's say we've got our HMG guy over here, and they can be all like, pow, 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 and then that guy's gone. And then we've got these guys, and, what have you got for us? 91%? Do it. Beautiful. Okay. So while he's pew-pewing, you are going to run here. Alright, so you run there. Oh, that's actually the same guy. My bad. Okay. So the one that we need is actually back here somewhere. So kind of hereabouts. So where are they located? Right in there? Huh? I actually don't know where they're located at this point. Maybe here? Yeah, this is the guy. So there's the USB stick. Cleaner data. Alright, and technically, while this guy could survive, if we bring him back, there is a 10% chance of that, and there is a far higher chance of just dying. So we're going to go ahead and get everybody that we can out, and that's just going to have to be that. Did take a few casualties, and that sucks, but bear in mind in this game that you will be losing people somewhat regularly. It is one of these ones that, just like classic XCOM, just like, as long as you get stuff done, while it is ideal for everybody to make it out, they probably won't all make it out. Again, it is, for all intents and purposes, strategy, survival, horror. Things will go wrong very, very regularly. And it again, it just has a very particular grim vibe to it. I mean, I would say Xenonauts in general feels to me like almost the sort of game equivalent of like that feeling when you're late on rent, and there's maybe a couple of side gigs you can do to make up for it. So yeah, very particular feeling there. Okay, so you're injured and need to friggin' run. HMG guy should be able to sort him out. There we go. Technically, our guy is right behind him, but I think, I I think there's a bit more forgiveness as far as suppressing your own guys this time around, because I have not found myself accidentally knocking my own people out as often. So they're going to go that way, and this is one of those situations that you would keep the smoke bomb launcher for. So I'm just going to move them into the way to cover at the moment. We're going to go ahead and get our other 3 USB sticks in the car right here. Okay, you're good there, you're good there, and let's go. So everybody that's left gets on, and yeah, that's kind of about that. So that's actually okay. I noticed that there's one thing that I mentioned earlier and forgot to elaborate on, and that was the different weapon types. So they all have seemingly very different characteristics. They technically kind of sorta did in the first Xeno. So like let's say it was all about kind of damage type back in the original XCOM, right? And in Xeno 2, it basically was just you get more power for less ammo. It's like by the time you got to mag cannons and stuff like that, the things basically had like 3 shots and they were spent. So you had to put them on stronger and stronger units. Whereas, let's say this time around, actually I just noticed technically that one is savable. Do we survive that? I don't know that we do. I mean, it's probably not worth risking it. Um, so okay, so yeah, this time around, for example, if you pick up the accelerated rifles that these guys will drop, you end up getting a way more accurate kind of a rifle with no burst option. So it's kind of more of like a marksman rifle kind of deal. Whereas, let's say the SMGs are just kind of like a faster firing, lighter weight assault rifle, or you get your lasers and they're way more accurate with next to no ammo capacity and stuff like that, and the batteries are super heavy. So there we go. Let's go ahead and do you want them to lift off? Yes. We'll take the completion and we're out of here. Technically progress. Not ideal progress, but technically progress. And so yeah, that's basically Xeno 2 in a nutshell. So is it something that you should be going for? I personally think so. I really like these games. Obviously it's not necessarily going to be for everyone, but I really like the feeling of this one, where it doesn't feel like there's a sort of stalemate to be achieved. It feels like you're always on the clock. It feels like there's this constant pressure to try and do better. And additionally, one of the things that I really appreciated about specifically kind of Xenonauts in particular there was just that due to the way that the armor system worked, you more or less could get away with using completely default equipment if you wanted to. Like the stuff that you get in unlimited qualities can honestly carry you throughout the entire thing. But yeah, sure, you'll run into those situations where you probably will have to hit something a few extra times, but oftentimes it can be a lot better to do it that way. So wait a minute, were those the 3 guys that we just saved from that other thing? Well, that's a bummer. Anyway, so yeah, so it's just a nice feeling, like one of those things that I liked. Like let's say going through the highest difficulty back in the first Xenonauts was just the fact that you could just slap a freaking basic 12 gauge on somebody, go up to basically you could argue like a max level friggin' end game lizard, and then it's like, oh, he still dies to like 3 shotgun shells. So that feels good. Anyway, we get xenobiology, we get the stun gun, which is just total shit so far. But maybe it is better as you get better at using it. Personally, I found it to be shockingly unreliable. Like literally less reliable than the basic handgun. I know it's supposed to be a capture weapon, but like just use the baton. All right, we get a bit more air game action here, and again, one interceptor is enough to really get the job done at this point. Um, all right, we got landed scout, so we can send the team out. So we don't know how much time is remaining. Um, yeah, let's go ahead and send out the Skyhawk here. Gonna get it filled out with whoever we've got left, and with this Mars, we probably want to give this thing a little bit of a cannon, I think. Give it a cannon and a smoke launcher, and there we go. Let's do one of those, do one of those. There we go, and perfect. Okay. So that'll do there. Let's see, are all the rest of these guys already good to go? Alright, you've got one of those, you've got one of those, you're good. Do we have two heavies on this team, or no? Actually, probably wouldn't be a terrible idea. Alright, we'll just send them out as they are. So last thing that I wanted to cover here, because we've covered most of everything here, but the kind of artwork and lore and whatever else in this thing is just a ton of fun. As far as the different kind of just backgrounds of everything, this stuff's just fun to read. I don't know how often y'all end up doing this stuff, but like for me personally, I know there's times that I just kind of sit down and start reading lore stuff and what have you. It's kind of reading just reading random background information, and it gets filled out a ton. So it's just neat, I think. And occasionally you find some new stuff and what have you. Anyway, so that's about that. So yeah, have yourselves a good one. Thank you for stopping by and listening to my weird little rant here, and yeah, have yourselves a good one. Take care.